In this video, we're going to look at how to create a survey in Moodle using the Questionnaire activity module. So as always, we first check to make sure that we're in the editing mode, and sure enough we are. So I'm going to scroll down to that unit, questionnaires and feedback, and create an activity of my own. Again, note that you always want to check to see the help information once you open the activity window. Not much is written there, so you're just going to go ahead and try it for yourself. The beginning of it is just like any other activity module, so I'm going to call it and one of the things that is different about the questionnaire is that you actually can assign timing to it. In other words, you can say you want it open and closed at a particular time, and I'm going to leave those disabled. I don't really mind when it's going to be available. And in this window, this is where you can select how many times someone can respond, whether it is anonymous or uses the person's sign-in name, and when they can review responses, etc., etc., etc. So there are a few more specific options that are available in the response options and in the content options of this module. This allows us to actually either copy a survey or create from a template. And in this one, we actually do have a template. So we could just select this, and you would be given the course evaluation survey as your present survey. But I want to create one from scratch just so you can see how you can create the questions and how it's similar and different from the feedback module. So let's just go to Save and Display, and you're taken to the welcome screen, and it's from here that we're going to actually add the questions. So the first thing you do is select the question type, and you can see that these are pretty similar to the feedback, except now we also do have a binary question option, yes, no, that you can put in. The others are pretty much the same. You also have a drop-down box, which allows you to make a choice by dropping down from a menu rather than selecting a radio button. But basically everything else is the same. So the first few are going to just be text boxes because we're going to be putting the student's name in. So I'm going to add that selection type, question name, and this one is first name, or could call it given name, whatever. Responses required, yes. And notice now there's a different default for the input box length. I'm going to change it to 30 just to keep it consistent. And I'm going to change this one to 40 again to keep it consistent. And so the question is going to be first name. Save changes, and you'll see that blue box for the question as we saw in the example earlier. So we want another text box. And note that the previous question's settings are automatically set as the default for the next question. So since the last one was a text box, this one is a text box also. And note also that it is also been selected as required response. So this is going to be family name. And again, I'm going to change this to 30 and 40. And this is going to be the name of it. Save that. And again, notice text box comes up as a default question. I'm going to change this one now to a scale because I want to rate the course. And I'm going to call this one just rating. I think that's what we called it last time. Number of scale items, just one. We're only going to be rating one thing. Type of rating scale. And this is another difference. You have some options with the scale that you want to use. You can add a not applicable column, no duplicate choices, Osgood is a particular type of scale, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm using the exact same scale that we used for the feedback, just so that we can compare one to the other. Note that it's important that to actually describe the scale in the question stem part, because down below you're only going to have a question and the answers. Well, and you'll see how it looks when we check the preview. And then the final question is going to be a multiple choice question. So for the multiple choice questions, we normally use radio buttons. And that question is going to be, we're not going to make it required. Radio buttons, vertical, and possible answers. And again, for the possible answers, I'm going to use exactly the same ones that we used for the feedback, just so we could have a comparison. And save that. And so that's our questionnaire. Let's preview. And oh, and I note that the no answer was left in. I can always take that out, just as I could with the feedback. And when I compare it with the feedback, notice how similar the two actually are. There's a bit of difference in formatting, but essentially the two give you the same options. So try out both. One has a few more choices, but use whichever one you're comfortable with. Hope this helps.